Hi there and welcome to Budget Model Railways, and quite an exciting video tonight because I'm launching, I've been talking about this for a while, my micro layout floating shelf challenge. So I got the idea for this. If you've been following me, I've seen a few people doing challenges, and I saw one involving one of the cleverly made pre-cut laser cut ply sort of layouts, but it was 27-30 quid for the baseboard. And I thought, I think I can find a way of doing that cheaper. So I looked at these floating shelves. Now these are a standard size, 60 by 23.5, and I'll come to the rules in a minute. And I thought, well, let's do a challenge. Let's give people hopefully some inspiration to have a go at making some micro layouts. Now, it's worth shopping around for these. I was quite impressed. So instead of 26 quid, I paid £13. I thought, great, half price. Only for Dibs Shunting Yard, who I follow on Instagram, to point out you can get them for £5. I think it's from Home Bargains. It's worth shopping around. A few people have told me you can get them for between £5 and £10. I paid 13 for mine, but that's still an awful lot less than the Pucker Model Railway layouts. Now, those of you who've been following me, this was my attempt at it. I wanted to create a really open looking Engage layout, a really simple one. Equally, I'm tinkering with a double O or HO one there to give you some scope of what can be done. Oh, tripod's got drunk. Let's pull that out a little bit for you. So, what are the rules, if you like? Well, firstly, I should say this is a challenge. It's not a competition. So anybody hoping to get a life-changing cash prize is going to be a little bit disappointed. I'm not going to run a first, second, third, kudos, yours is the best layout thing. The idea of this is to inspire people to have a go and make a layout, either as a first ever layout or their first micro layout, or just for fun. Whatever floats your boat. I think micro layouts are a bit undervalued. There's also a lot of people increasingly I talk to are saying, yeah, when I get a room for a layout, and this is very much me sort of trying to say, well, actually, come on here, you don't even got any woodworking skills. You can go and buy these boards ready to go. You need 1 point really. So if you've never built a layout, this is a great opportunity to say, well, find a bit of rolling stock and a loco you've got that you like and make a layout for it. Practice your techniques. So what am I laying down as, if you like, the rules? Well, the first and most important one is the size. It's got to be one of these 60 centimetre by 23.5 centimetre floating shelves. Yes, there are other sizes available. The problem is if I just start saying floating shelf, there really isn't a competition, because I, for instance, at the moment am tinkering with an American layout here, but that's a 77 centimetre long shelf because I want more room. So for me, the idea of a challenge is to set a space challenge, which is what I usually work with. So it's got to be that size. It's one of the standard 60 by 23.5 centimetre shelves. I don't care how deep it is. So there are several of these on the market. Some are about half this depth. I prefer the slightly meatier ones. I think there's slight chance it is anyway of having warpage. But if you've got a shallower one, that's fine. Now look, if you've got a different size board and you want to have a go at building a layout, of course, crack on. That's the whole point, to inspire people. But the actual challenge is for this size. Some of the other things, it must have at least 1 point so that you've got some shunting potential in there. They're nice, but what I don't want is one piece of track running through as a diorama. The idea of this is making an operational model railway. So it's got to have at least 1 point or switch. You can use whatever track you like. Pre-ballasted, really don't care. If you think you can fit an oval in, which is actually possible in N, I have done it. You can't run much round it, but I have done it. But it would certainly work in something like Z. Yes, I'm just checking. It's roughly 9 inches, and I did once build a 9-inch radius layout, a 9-inch diameter. Can't struggle with my words today. Diameter layout. But if you build an oval, it must still have at least 1 point in it. It should have 2 buildings. Okay, minimum of 2 buildings. Now, you can include sheds, signal boxes, whatever. So this one, for instance, I've got my 2, I've got my station, I've got my goods shed, and actually I've got a little concrete building there as well. So not difficult to get 2 or 3 buildings in. Back seam can be any height. Now, you might want a fiddle yard. Now, you'll have to excuse the mess here. People that know me know I work in a bit of a mess, and I'm working on a few projects. So I have got a little fiddle yard on mine. Fiddle yard's not a problem. However, it shouldn't be more than 60 centimetres long, and it shouldn't be more than 2 roads. Okay, so you want to put a fiddle yard on, that's fine. Again, what I'm not interested in is somebody doing a 4 foot, 5 foot long board saying, well, the other 2 or 3 feet is the fiddle yard and I just scenic this bit. No, it's got to be built on the board with a separate fiddle yard. Please use as much second-hand and recycled materials as you can. We're budget model railways. The idea of this isn't that somebody goes and buys lots of brand new track, loads of resin buildings, loads of really expensive scenery, static grass application, all that. The idea is to do it on a budget as much as you can. These buildings, that was new, but it was only $550. That was second hand. The track was very second hand. The ballast was second hand. I just used a puffer bottle to do the static grass. So I didn't have to use a static grass applicator. Doug did 3D print me a box, so I've got my controller integral. Trees I picked up cheap. Even the back scene is just a cheap Pico one and some offcuts. So the whole point of it, please, when you do a description of the layout, just drop in what recycled you've used, what second hand. Now, second hand's a bit interesting. If you bought it new and you've used it on another layout, as far as I'm concerned, it's second hand. If you've ripped the buildings or track off another layout, it's clearly second hand. But anyway, let's see what people do with that. But the idea is to inspire you to try and build a micro layout on a limited budget. Like I say, if you've got something else and you've got a bit of board, that's fine. If it inspires you to make a layout, that's great. But the actual challenge is on this size board. And that's it really, really simple. As I say, what Doug's done for me, you'll see in the description of this video a link. Now, if you can't work that out, simply go to the Budget Model Railways website. Now, it's the website that we used to use for doing 3D printed models, so you'll see that. But you'll see at the toolbar at the top, challenge. If you're doing it on a phone, there's 3 little horizontal bars in the top left-hand corner. If you click on that, again, it will say challenge. You can then go into the challenge page and you'll be able to put a short description of your layout, take a photograph of your layout and upload it. Okay, nice and simple. And then everybody can see it. Anybody that comes into that challenge page, you can see what everybody else has uploaded and you can make comments on it. Now, we will be monitoring it for all the usual reasons. We don't want any silly political messages or people falling out. There is no right or wrong to this outside of the rules. So the rules are there really to make it a bit of fun and give you a challenge. Now, I might end up making a couple because actually talking to you all now, I just remembered that I did do, it's very tight and you can only get very short locos around it, but I have done an oval on this size and I'm getting interested now, thinking to myself, well, I might do an oval round and round layout as well. So it doesn't have to be, although I think most will be shunting layouts. And obviously you aren't going to get a double O round this, unless somebody really thinks they can. I've had double O down to 15 inch, but yes, you might get a loco round it, but you won't get any wagons around it because of coupling and buffer lock. But if you think you can do it, then let's see if somebody can do a double O oval. But I don't think so. But I might do an N gauge one. It is going to be a challenge, in double O. But I have seen, as I say, Dibs Shunting Yard has already started and has managed it. There's nothing stopping you, if you're going to do a 2-road fiddle yard, for instance, of having a point and perhaps a shuttle at the back, if you want to do that, as long as it's only a 2-road fiddle yard. Be very interesting. A couple of people have mentioned doing 7mm, 16.5. Again, that would be really interesting. Very much lends itself to 009 or HOE, I guess. I've also got an inkling of doing perhaps a very narrow gauge and using 9mm track to do perhaps 1 and 35th or 1 and 48th locos. So it's already got me thinking of all sorts of possibilities, especially if I can go out and find these baseboards around the £5 or £10 mark, which would be good. So there you go. Let's see what you make of this. I like this layout. This is the one I've sort of submitted. It's got the look I wanted, but it'd be very interesting to see what people do. And using a card system, so a simple, I'm just using serial packet card at the moment, but using a shuffled card system, actually, there's a lot of shunting potential in this. So 1 point, I think it's what our American friends call a tuning fork, for obvious reasons, layout, still gives you a lot of potential. So there we go. You've got the criteria. It's on the website. So if you couldn't make notes quick enough, which of course you can't, go on the website and all the rules, if you like, are there. It is my competition. If anybody falls out of me over it and says, why can't I do a bigger board and why couldn't I do this? Really sorry, guys. I'm just trying to keep it fun. The organiser's decision is final, as they used to say on the Blue Peter competitions, for those of you old enough to remember it. And let's see what people do with it. I'll leave the video up for about a week before I launch another video, because I tend to find when I do a video, it stops people seeing it. And the usual proviso, if you're interested in this, please spread the word of this far and wide. So if you're in clubs, if you're on other forums and other sites, please go to people and say, look, Budget Model Railways are doing this challenge. Why don't we have a go at it? Why don't you have a go at it? Let's see how many people we can get doing this. Now, if it's successful, I've got an idea for perhaps a project challenge for next year, which would be to use the same baseboards, but in a modular setup where we would agree where track will come in and out, so you could link lots of layouts together. So a bit like the Kato challenge with their little dioramas, but much bigger, because there's a tiny little things, but much bigger. And then people could organise. But that's next year. But let's see how successful this is. If this is successful, then I'll consider that one. There you go. You've heard enough of me talking. Let's see what we can do with this. Thank you as always for your time.